People say to me that the Helix will never replace their amp. And it shouldn't, to be honest, because there are things that it can do that your amp can't do, especially in today's modern gigging world. The reason I like the Helix in particular is it's a great compromise without spending loads of money. So I don't own a real Plexi. I don't own a 4x12 greenback. I don't have space for either of those things. And my girlfriend doesn't have the capacity to take the volume of those things, and I'm not even sure I do. You can get very close to the same kind of sound, and you can gain more consistency than playing through a real amp, which is going to sound different everywhere. This is going to sound the same. So yes, it might not be absolutely identical, but you can find a sound that you really like that won't change. So you're not thinking about, oh, does this sound good? Oh, something's different tonight. There's different power in the venue. And I'm going to do a bit of a demonstration of that. I've got the Plexi here, and most of these controls you have on the front panel. I'm in the bright channel going into a 4x12 greenback. I'm using a 57 dynamic. Everything else is stock. Now the main thing that I want to talk about here, drive is your channel volume. So on the front panel, you have the normal volume and the bright volume. This is the bright volume. Now, when it's low, you have this bright cap that Plexis are known for. Which can make it pretty fierce sounding. But even a 50 watt Plexi on 2 is monstrously loud at this point. And it doesn't really get louder, it just gets more distorted. But what happens is, as you turn that volume knob up on the bright channel, it actually takes the bright cap more and more out of the signal, so it has less of an effect. And around 6 is where you really start to hear this one overdrive. Now, the other key part of the sound is the master volume. Now, the Plexi amp itself doesn't have a master volume. It's maxed out on the inside all the time. So it's not like a JCM 800 where you have a master volume you can turn down on the front. And that amp as well benefits from what's called power amp saturation. So let's turn the master down to 5. Now, imagine this was a 50 watt amp with the drive on 6. Imagine that was gain and the master volume on 5. This would still be stupidly loud, especially for home use. But we've lost a lot of the saturation. Now I see a lot of people running a real amp on 1. Now there's still gain there because we've got the preamp quite high. But that's a pretty underwhelming amount of gain compared to when the master was at 10. It's a sound, and you might want to use that sound. It's still a nice sound for the right application. Now you can hear if I let an E chord ring out and just turn the master up. There's a definite point where it kicks in to sounding like a Plexi. And my point being here, if you can't have the master on 10, it's not going to sound like a Plexi anyway. So if you've got an amp that you're barely driving, it's going to lose so much bigness to the sound. Let's just max out the channel volume and put the drive on 5. Just all of the fatness is gone. And this applies to all sorts of different amps. So now let's try a twin reverb, so something totally different. Again, there's no master volume on this amp, so it defaults to 10. We're just going to look at the drive. It's a bit funny with the Helix because obviously on a Fender amp, it goes from 1 to 10, but we've got 0 to 10. So you have to kind of figure out roughly where that would be. Now, if we set it at 2.4, Again, default cab settings. Sounds like a twin. Doesn't really break up, there's a lot of clean headroom. And then you turn the master section down. All of a sudden, it's actually quite sterile because you haven't got the power amp section working properly. It's a lot thinner, it feels less big under the fingers, and there's less you can do with that. Especially if you put a pedal in front of it, it's just going to sound a bit thinner and maybe even a bit fizzy. We haven't even touched the EQ, this is just the master section. Now this brings me on to another point, so we're going to go back to the Plexi for this. Now this is one of the problems with the Plexi 20 watt reissues that Marshall have done. To get the Plexi sound, you want to be driving it pretty hard, you know, to get the rock thing. And as I said earlier, even on 2, it's just going to be too loud and you're going to get told to turn down and you're not going to get the full Marshall experience and you're going to potentially not play so well as a result. Now, with the Helix model, you have the benefit that you can get that sound at any volume you like because it's going into the PA or it's going into a flat response speaker, or you can do what I did for a while, which is use a real guitar cab, feed this signal into that, but take the cabinet simulation off. So that's a pretty good way round for doing it live and still having that cab in the room feeling. But the other benefit with this is you can put any effect you like afterwards. So now the HX Stomp costs £599 at the moment. You've got a simulation of an Echoplex after a Marshall Plexi into a 4x12. That's easily, even with modern reissues and modern takes on things, that's easily £2,500 for one signal path. And then you can actually add a stereo reverb at the end. Now all of a sudden, okay, that's a very wet reverb, so let's turn the mix down. All of a sudden, you've gone from an uninspiring master volume amp where the master's barely up to a much more inspiring with reverb and delay. The reverb's in stereo, you can put the delay in stereo if you want. But you've got all these options in here, and as long as you're aware of what you're going for, you'll be able to find a way to get a tone that is really inspiring and really consistent, whether you're at home, in the gig, or in a studio doing some recording. So I hope you found this video useful. There are so many benefits to the Helix, and this only just scratches the surface of them. Let me know if you'd like me to explore anything else. I'll catch you in another video soon.